In the grim darkness of the far future, the very word, compliance, carries a meaning far beyond mere agreement. It is not a polite negotiation, nor is it an invitation to debate. Compliance in the Imperium is absolute submission, a surrender of will and autonomy to the Emperor, or else certain annihilation. Imagine entire planets, teeming with life and culture, facing a choice so stark that hesitation itself is fatal. The sky above them fills with the silhouettes of colossal warships, their shadows blotting out the sun, silent omens of the unstoppable power descending from orbit. The fate of every world hinges not on diplomacy, but on the relentless certainty that the Emperor's will is absolute. Some worlds, sensing the inevitability of imperial dominion, welcome the emissaries and envoys, accepting the promise of protection, unity, and advanced technology. They see hope in the Emperor's reach, a chance to rise above internal strife and find stability in the order imposed by the Imperium. Yet for others, the arrival of the legions Astartes is a harbinger of devastation, a signal that resistance will be met with unyielding force. The contrast is brutal. One moment, a world prospers under the promise of guidance, the next, a planet is razed to ash for daring to defy the relentless march of the Great Crusade. From the disciplined order of the Ultramarines to the overwhelming shock of the Luna Wolves, from the unbreakable sieges of the Iron Warriors to the psychological terror wielded by the Night Lords, each legion imposes compliance in a manner uniquely terrifying. This is not mere conquest, it is a calculated, evolving strategy designed to ensure that every corner of the galaxy bends to the Emperor's vision. In this vast and unforgiving universe, the concept of choice is an illusion, and the cost of resistance is always written in blood. The stage is set, the galaxy poised at the edge of chaos, and the story of Imperial compliance begins, revealing a truth both awe-inspiring and horrifying. The Imperium's unity is built not on consent, but on fear, power, and the unflinching certainty that submission is the only path to survival. Some worlds welcomed the Imperium with open arms, understanding that the galaxy was a place of constant peril, where isolation often led to ruin. The arrival of Imperial envoys was met with a mixture of awe and hope. These emissaries brought with them promises of advanced technology, knowledge, and protection from external threats. Entire civilizations could benefit from the guidance and resources of the Emperor's vast empire. Artisans, engineers, and scholars found new opportunities, while rulers who accepted imperial oversight secured their positions and ensured the survival of their peoples. Cities that had once struggled with internal conflict now experienced a new sense of unity, as the presence of the Imperium offered stability and a vision of progress that no local power could match. Yet even in these moments of apparent peace, the true nature of compliance was never far from view. Imperial doctrine demanded strict adherence to its laws, rituals, and the will of the Emperor. Education, governance, and even religion were subtly or overtly influenced by imperial mandates, reshaping culture and identity in ways that many considered beneficial, while others quietly resented the loss of complete autonomy. The technological gifts provided were not merely tools but instruments of loyalty, embedding the Imperium's influence deep into the fabric of daily life. For many worlds, the transformation seemed natural, almost benevolent, yet beneath the surface lay a silent reminder: obedience was not optional. Even those who embraced imperial guidance lived under the understanding that the Emperor's judgment could be swift and absolute. Their loyalty was not only expected but monitored, and the presence of imperial agents ensured that compliance was more than agreement, it was complete integration into the Imperium's grand design. What appeared to be prosperity and cooperation was in truth a carefully orchestrated form of control, one that softened resistance before it hardened, one that allowed civilizations to feel part of a greater purpose while simultaneously binding them irrevocably to the Imperium's unyielding will. In these worlds, the cost of survival was subtle, often invisible to the population at first, but it was always there. Freedom was traded for protection, and individuality became secondary to the collective order imposed by the Emperor. For worlds that resisted or ignored the overtures of the Imperium, the consequences were immediate and terrifying. Space Marine legions arrived from orbit like living instruments of judgment, their ships blotting out suns and their artillery reducing fortified cities to smoldering rubble. Resistance was never merely punished, it was obliterated. The legions Astartes did not wage war for glory or conquest in the human sense, they enforced the emperor's will, their campaigns precise, calculated, and merciless. Each legion had its own methods, reflecting both its history and its tactical doctrine. The Ultramarines exemplified disciplined, methodical campaigns, using overwhelming strategy and coordination to subdue entire planetary defenses without unnecessary waste, demonstrating that order itself could be terrifyingly efficient. The Luna Wolves struck with sudden, overwhelming force, crushing opposition in moments of absolute shock, ensuring that fear and awe preceded them as much as their weapons did. The Iron Warriors specialized in unrelenting sieges, breaking cities, fortresses, and entire populations slowly, demonstrating that persistence could be as devastating as speed. The Night Lords excelled in psychological warfare, spreading terror through deception, fear, and horror before delivering the final blow, leaving survivors traumatized even if they remained alive. The tactics were varied, the results uniformly absolute. Planets that attempted to resist saw their infrastructure obliterated, their cultures erased, and populations decimated. Resistance was a language the Imperium understood not as negotiation but as a declaration of rebellion, and rebellion was met with total annihilation. For these worlds, the arrival of the Astartes was both a warning and a sentence, a visual representation of the cost of defiance. The strategic deployment of each legion ensured that the Imperium's dominance was not just physical but psychological, instilling the knowledge that no world could truly defy the Emperor. Every orbital bombardment, every tactical strike, and every psychological maneuver was a calculated step toward absolute compliance, demonstrating that submission was preferable to destruction, but the choice, though offered, was nothing more than an illusion. The price of resisting the Imperium was written in fire and blood. Worlds that dared to stand against the Emperor were often reduced to ash, their cities obliterated, and their populations either annihilated or enslaved. Entire cultures, histories, and identities were erased, leaving nothing behind but scorched landscapes and the symbols of imperial dominion. The consequences were absolute and unyielding, there was no negotiation, no mercy, no chance for reconsideration. The legions Astartes carried out these punishments with unflinching precision, their actions not motivated by hatred but by duty. The iron law of the Imperium demanded that rebellion be extinguished swiftly and completely, ensuring that no example of defiance could inspire others. Resistance, however small, was a seed of chaos, a threat to the delicate balance the Emperor sought to impose across the galaxy. Siege after siege, orbital bombardment after bombardment, and relentless campaigns against insurgent worlds served as grim reminders of the stakes for those who survived initial assaults. Life became a constant reminder of submission. Communities rebuilt under strict imperial oversight, their every action monitored, their cultures reshaped to align with the will of the Imperium. Even after the fire subsided, the psychological scars remained, a testament to the lengths the Emperor's forces would go to secure obedience. These worlds became warnings etched across the stars, showing that the Imperium's authority was absolute. Civilizations learned that resistance was futile, and submission was the only path to survival. In the cold calculus of the Imperium, individual lives, traditions, and entire planetary legacies were expendable, and the cost of disobedience was a lesson carved in blood that echoed across generations. Compliance was not just expected, it was enforced with a consistency and finality that left no room for doubt. Even for worlds that ultimately submitted, the cost of unity was immense. Compliance was never free, it required the surrender of independence, the reorientation of culture, and the acceptance of a hierarchy where the emperor's will was law. While some may have prospered under imperial guidance, benefiting from technology, security, and the promise of stability, the true price was measured in what was lost, traditions erased, local governance supplanted, and identities reshaped to conform with the Imperium's ideals. Civilizations became integrated into a vast, impersonal machine, where individuality was secondary to collective order. The presence of the legions Astartes and imperial administrators ensured that obedience was constant, not optional. Even subtle acts of defiance could be detected and punished, serving as a stark reminder that the Imperium's reach was absolute. Yet, paradoxically, submission also offered survival. Worlds that embraced compliance avoided the immediate devastation of rebellion, their population spared the firestorms that had razed resisting planets. They became part of something far greater than themselves, contributing to the Emperor's vision. For the galaxy, the unity achieved through compliance was a double-edged sword. It created stability at the cost of freedom, safety at the cost of autonomy, and belonging at the cost of identity. Every compliant world carried the memory of its choices, a constant reminder of the balance between life and annihilation. In the end, Imperial Compliance was more than conquest or governance. It was a transformation, reshaping entire civilizations to serve the Emperor. The Imperium gained obedience, order, and expansion, while the cost was invariably blood, culture, and the irrevocable surrender of freedom. The legacy of these worlds is a testament to the truth of the Imperium: unity is never without sacrifice, and survival always comes at a price. In the vast darkness of the galaxy, the story of Imperial Compliance comes to its inevitable conclusion, leaving a truth that is both awe-inspiring and horrifying. Every world, whether it resisted or welcomed the Imperium, was irrevocably changed by its presence. Civilizations that once thrived independently were either crushed beneath the weight of overwhelming force or remade in the image of the Emperor's vision. Blood was spilled, cultures erased, and countless lives were sacrificed to forge unity across thousands of worlds. Yet, in this grim calculus, the Imperium did not falter, it did not hesitate. The legions Astartes carried out their duty with unflinching precision, ensuring that the Emperor's will was absolute and that no act of defiance could stand. Submission was not a choice but a necessity, and survival was measured by the willingness to surrender fully to a power beyond comprehension. In the end, the galaxy was united under one banner, not through consent, but through fear, strategy, and unrelenting force. Each compliant world serves as a reminder of the cost of disobedience and the price of order, a cost that is always paid in blood. The Imperium's reach is infinite, its authority unquestionable, and its judgment absolute. The lesson is clear: in the grim darkness of the far future, there is no compromise, no mercy, and no escape. To survive, one must obey. To defy is to be forgotten, reduced to nothing more than ash and memory. The legacy of Imperial Compliance is a galaxy forged through fire and steel, where unity exists only because the Emperor's will brooks no opposition. It is a truth both terrifying and magnificent, a testament to the relentless, unyielding power of the Imperium, and a reminder that in this universe, submission is the only path to survival, and the cost of defiance is always total annihilation.